Hi everyone, Brian back again, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through programming tank drive on your V5 robot. This time I'll be using Modkit, which is a scratch-based programming language that VCS offers, VCS being Vex Coding Studio. Now, before we get started, I want to make it clear that I'll be programming a clawbot that comes from the kit, and so I'll be using the 2-motor drive that they set up. But it should work for your robot, just configure it to yours, and the concept's the same. So let's jump right in. This is the welcoming page, and we click Modkit, then choose, and we're brought to this configuration. And if you look in the top right, you'll see we're in the robot section. Before we put anything in, we are going to change the name, and I'm just going to name mine tank drive, and nothing for the description because tank drive should be enough. Now we start off with the brain, and that's what we have to have in order to run our robot or run our program. But we also need a controller, of course, to do tank drive, and also the motors. And I'll be dragging in 2 because of the clawbot, but you can drag in however many that your robot requires. And I'm also going to change the name of my motors, so when I'm programming, it makes it easier on me to know exactly what I'm talking about. And if we click on these number buttons, we can change the port numbers and configure them with our actual motors. So this one's 1 for me. This one's 2. No, it's actually 10. Now we can slide over to the blocks tab in the top right. And there's nothing here. We'll start adding things. So first thing we want to do is call our program to start when the actual program starts, and that's in control. So when started will be the block for that, and we are going to have this forever loop underneath when started, because for driver control we want it to happen over and over and over again. We want complete control for as long as needed, which would be forever in this case. The next thing we want to do is drag the motor actions in. And this would be left motor spin forward, and then just drag it in again and click that down button to make it right motor spin forward. So by default, they're spinning forward. Now this program here would just have the motor spin forever, but we don't want them to spin forward forever. We want to be able to control which direction and how fast they're going with the controller. And to do that, we can go into settings to set the velocity, which would be the speed and direction of our motors. And we want to do this before we start spinning, so that our robot knows how fast and in which direction before it actually spins. So that's all we need, and then we'll change this to right motor. And these 50 in the blank spaces, they represent the velocity, but we don't want a set velocity. We want it to change varying on how the axes are on the robot, the positions. And so we go into sensing and scroll down to controller axis 1 position. And we're going to slide these in those spaces. Now with this, we can track what position our axis is in. So for you guys who aren't understanding where I'm getting these axis numbers from, I made this graphic for you. So if you look on your controller, you'll see the numbers around the joysticks, that 3 and 4 and this 2 and 1. And basically this is the y-axis and x-axis for each joystick. So when we reference the numbers, we're referencing the axis of the controllers. That's why it's axis 1 through axis 4. And when we're moving all the way up on the joystick, 3 or 2, we're getting 100 or negative 100. And that's what our robot is reading from our controller when we set the motor power to the axis value. So we want to map our controls. The left motor needs to be on axis 3, because that's the y-axis up and down. And our right motor needs to be on axis 2, because that is the right joystick or axis, and that's the y-axis up and down. And that's pretty much it. Now, the only thing left is to add in a wait command at the end. And this is to give your program enough time to process the information you've given it. So this will just wait for, and I'm going to put it at 0.2 seconds, so 200 milliseconds. And that little bit of time is enough for your program to process the stuff that you're giving it to, so it doesn't overload with information or slow down and lag. And that is tank drive for V5 Modkit.